Hello and welcome to the Stock Out. This is your show at FreightWaves for all things related to the consumer packaged goods industry, the CPG industry, and also the retail industry. And I'm going to be your host for today, Mike Bowdendistel, head of intermodal solutions here at FreightWaves. And what we're going to do today is have a show that's focused on Amazon and what sellers on the Amazon marketplace have to do to grow their brands on Amazon, do that effectively. Heard from the FTC complaint just how difficult that supposedly is. So we're going to be digging into that with a guest who is very experienced on this matter. Chris Moe is the CEO of Cartograph. I'll be interviewing him in just a second. He assists sellers with growing their brands and sales on the Amazon marketplace. So I had him on before and wanted to get him back to discuss the latest issues with Amazon. But before I do that, I want to make sure everyone has an opportunity to sign up for the Stock Out newsletter, which gets sent out every week on these topics. You can do that at www.freightwaves.com/the Stock Out. Try to get that out in the middle part of the week and really go through FreightWaves content as for what is important to shippers. And so like the one that was just went through some of the articles that came out on Convoy, the Convoy shutdown, and some of the highlights that really sort of make a difference for shippers, what those things said about the marketplace, also what various carriers were saying about their outlook for the freight market. So I would encourage you to go and sign up for that. And so I want to intro today's topic, which is, I'll give a little bit of a summary of the Amazon complaint by the Federal Trade Commission and 17 states attorneys general for anyone that has not followed this closely. So this was brought up in late September. It was something that the FTC chairperson was working on for some time. She made it the thesis of one of her law school papers. So people always sort of speculated that she was going to come down hard on Amazon. But from the perspective of CPG companies, it really sort of highlighted the difficulty that it is to join the Amazon marketplace, sell on the Amazon marketplace and sell that profitably. So basically all that a seller on the Amazon marketplace has to do to sell profitably is they have to make sure their prices are consistent with the other online superstores. Can't be much different. So their results don't get buried and have the buy box taken away. And if they're competing sellers selling the same thing, they have to win the buy box. That's the box that says, buy, put in your cart, or check out with one click. They potentially have to buy enough advertising to win that buy box. And the seller should not forget about Amazon Prime, which Amazon Prime customers buy about 4 times as much as non-Amazon Prime customers do. And in order to get on the Amazon Prime list, they have to use the Amazon Prime fulfillment, warehousing, pack and pick and delivery. And Amazon got rid of the seller fulfilled Prime, which would have been an alternative to using Amazon's fulfillment centers, potentially at lower cost. And so the FTC alleges that these total fees on Amazon can be up to 50% of sellers' gross sales. So it does make it difficult to make a profit for the sellers. And then there was something in the complaint called Project Nessie, which seems a little nebulous. It was mostly redacted, but it seemed like it was some kind of algorithm where Amazon would test changes in competing sellers' prices in response to their own changes in price to see essentially almost how elastic the pricing is relative to their own. So all of those things. And then the FTC says, well, you put all those things together, they reinforce each other to make it even a more monopolistic situation than it would be if they were just doing one of those things on its own. So really a lot going on there. It was kind of a fascinating read to go through that complaint. But want to bring on today's guest who really has a lot of insight into this. It's going to be Chris Moe, a CEO of Cartograph. Do we have Chris online? Great.
Hey, Mike. How's it going?
Doing well. How are you? Good to see you again.
Yeah, excited to be back. And lot to unpack with this new FTC complaint as you just went through.
Yeah, so that's what I wanted to ask you. I mean, you deal with these issues for a long time. You have a lot of insight in here that people who don't deal with the sellers on Amazon Marketplace could possibly have. What was your initial reaction to the FTC lawsuit?
So I think my initial reaction was one, not too surprising. Like as you mentioned, Lena Khan, the head of the FTC, she actually made her name in the legal world with a pretty groundbreaking paper when she was at Yale Law. I think it was back in 2017 about
Mhm.
Amazon's monopoly pricing. Now, what was interesting about the case was how broad it was, and that it actually didn't even assert for an outcome. It was almost like a kind of like a blanket statement across all the different things that are going on Amazon. Oftentimes, the stuff that gets in the press of like criticism of Amazon, anti-competitive, all that kind of stuff, it they tend to miss the point. In fact, like the topic that has been most in the press, I would say, over the last 5 years has been about white labeled products, which I don't think was that strong of an argument. But I think in this case, they really made some strong arguments, both about price matching and promotion of their own products over other sellers' products.
Interesting. So white label, those would be like the Amazon basics and those things that are okay. Okay, they're basically private label. Okay, so that's interesting. I mean, one thing I want to ask you is one of the things the FTC alleges is that if you don't sort of play by the rules with having prices that are elsewhere that aren't much different than Amazon, you can't have price of, let's say, $10 on Amazon, have it $8 someplace else, that they bury you in the search results. So they really do that. Is that an accurate description?
Yeah, I would say first answer is yes, but deserves a little bit more explanation. So what happens is Amazon has what's often referred to as most favored nation pricing rule, where they say you must have the same pricing that's competitive with other major e-commerce retailers. And so, generally speaking, the CPG world, that's Walmart, Target, properties owned by Kroger, like Vitacost, and Costco, and then in some cases, other categories, there's other retailers online. And so, what happens if you have a price that is not as low as the other retailer is Amazon hides your buy box. And what the buy box is it's actually a box on the right side of a product page on Amazon that has the add to cart button. And so effectively what they're doing is hiding the add to cart button. And then you have to click another white button that says see buying options in order to even be able to add the item to your cart. And so that reduces add to carts by well over half. And
Mhm.
so what that has the effect of is Amazon search results are very much performance weighted based upon how much people click and add to cart and purchase. And so it has the follow on effect of making your product go down in search. So not exactly direct, but does have that impact.
Yeah, it seems like when it's like, search for other options instead of buy now, it's almost like a signal to the customer that this isn't a good deal, right? It's almost like something's in short supply and you're paying a scalper for an inflated amount for the item. It makes you not want to buy it. You also brought up an interesting point when we were going back and forth over email about if something's on a customer's own or seller's own website, is sort of direct to consumer, that's excluded from all of this. So that seller can have it at that $8 price. It can be on Amazon at $10, and they don't penalize that seller. Is that right?
That's right. So it's kind of a funny distinction, and I think where Amazon gets into trouble here is where they enforce this a little bit inconsistently, and have
Mhm, mhm,
unclear rules about it. So they don't price match to your direct to consumer website. Um, they generally will price match to these other major retailer websites. It's not totally consistent enforcement, and I think Amazon actually deliberately is unspecific on exactly what the rules are because sometimes these rules will
mhm,
flick
mhm,
on and off. But where it really gets tricky for CPG brands is if you think about like the corporate strategy of Walmart, Target, other retailers, they're really pushing to have more and more of their business online. And so,
mhm,
mainly because of Amazon taking so much of the online market share. And so, what they're doing is they're often making online offers that are in line with in-store pricing or offers
Mhm.
that don't include shipping. And so you can imagine, you're shipping a drink, right? And a drink in a store might be 3, 4 bucks, if that. And if
Mhm.
you don't include shipping, there's no way that you could match that. And then all of a sudden, Amazon is forcing a brand to match that. And so it's just economically unviable. Obviously, it's not usually singular drinks, but the same thing occurs with, for example, single bags of chips and things like that, where Target.com or Walmart.com said, oh, here's our in store price. And yeah, you could ship it too. And then they have some kind of cart construction where they include shipping later on. And so that's what makes it really difficult for CPG brands to compete on Amazon with smaller kits.
Okay, so if they were to compete on Amazon, it almost seems like they would have to have kind of their own Amazon SKUs that fits into a sort of the sort of packaging sizes that works for Amazon and all of those things, and maybe you have to sell a case of the drinks instead of just a single drink in that case.
Yeah. That's exactly right, and that's actually where Amazon strategy gets really complex, and where Amazon's rules get really confusing. So, what you'll find is you go on Amazon, and most of the CPG products for sale there on free Prime shipping, excluding Amazon Fresh or local delivery options, tend to be larger units just to account for the economics necessary to ship the product. Now, when brands run into this price matching problem, they'll often either introduce unique SKUs or unique sizes. Things you often see are multi packs, variety packs in particular, and ones that aren't actually for sale at these other retailers. And then you can also make different sized units. Like you might get a 12-ounce bag in the grocery store, and then you list like a 14 or a 16 on Amazon. And Amazon's actually quite inconsistent on when they enforce price matching across this. And so when we work with our clients, we say, hey, there's kind of like a sliding scale of options of least likely to be price matched and most likely to be price matched. And we should try all these different things, like including, I think, like one of the most effective strategies, least likely to be price matched, is if you do a variety pack with a different size unit in it, so like almost like a sample unit in it. But the funny thing with this is Amazon will still sometimes price match some of these items. Amazon has either said directly in conversation, they're like, we're going to price match it on a price per ounce, not actually price per unit. It's not exactly the same
Oh,
thing, but
really?
we
Wow.
know what it is and we're going to price match it. And so it's very inconsistent. And I think that's what makes it hard, because brands have to make pretty substantial investments in making units or making sizes or building things that work for the Amazon platform. And then the inconsistent enforcement of the rules just make it hard for brands to operate.
That's really interesting, that they would do that. Sort of convert it to price per ounce, and so it's hard to make the arguments that it's a different SKU and different item entirely. You wanted to ask you also about, one of the things that comes out up in the FTC complaint is concept of Amazon Prime, and that in order to do it, you have to use the Amazon fulfillment centers, which it seems like, those Amazon fulfillment centers are everywhere these days, and that those are very expensive. Do you think the sellers are being treated fairly in that case? And is that is it really a big issue if you don't use Amazon's fulfillment centers? You want to use a different fulfillment center? Because lots of fulfillment companies that we know here at FreightWaves, they're doing fulfillment, do a pretty good job on it.
Totally, totally. So it's a really complex question. You have to unpack it in a few different ways. So first, I think the first part of the question is, can you compete without the Prime badge on Amazon? And I think the answer is largely not really.
Mhm.
Sometimes when you're shopping, you'll see a product that doesn't have the Prime badge, and you might click it if you really want that product, but it tends to decrease your, again, just like of the buy box being suppressed, it decreases your conversion by a significant amount. And so not having the Prime badge is not really a viable option if you're really trying to compete at scale on Amazon. Now, you mentioned earlier but sorry, seller fulfilled Prime, Amazon's option to do your own shipping and get the Prime badge. Amazon actually just reopened this in beta about a month ago.
Mm.
But for really, for all intents and purposes, it is still a small beta. The bar to operate on it is very difficult. Like you need to have a very competent logistics and supply chain in order to do it with good ship times and uh, availability on most of the days and so forth. And so it's not really an option for most brands. So all of this to say that you basically do need Prime to compete, and you basically do have to go through, for the vast majority of brands selling on Amazon, you do need to go through Amazon's fulfillment centers. Now, if that is the case to compete, um, you can then ask a couple different questions. One is Amazon price gouging consumers on the fulfillment side? And the answer,
Mhm.
I would say, is probably not that much. Um, Amazon Prime rates or fulfillment by Amazon rates tend to be uh, quite fair relative to, if you check freight rates elsewhere, especially for one
Mhm.
and 2 day shipping. And so it's a little bit hard to make the argument that like Amazon is really doing monopoly pricing on their um, fulfillment services in isolation. Now it gets a little bit more complex when you say, okay, but you have to pay platform fees, and then there's kind of like platform lock in. You may not be able to get service on the business. You may not be able to like take your inventory out because it's very hard to get a hold of a human. And then it becomes this is when it gets to this kind of like, okay, um, Amazon might have a bit too much control, even if it's not about just pricing the shipping rates in isolation.
Mhm.
It's pretty
Mhm.
hard to compete. It's you have to play exactly by their rules, otherwise you can't really have an effective business on the platform.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it seems like if consumers are being taken advantage of by Amazon, they like aren't sophisticated enough to know it because it's like almost everyone has Amazon Prime. Almost everyone renews their Amazon Prime subscription. Everyone seems to like the service, seems to be addicted to the service. It almost seems like if anyone's being taken advantage of, it is maybe some of these sellers that have a difficult time being profitable there. And it's kind of some of the language you use in some of your materials, I think is interesting. Like, even on your website, you say we help brands grow on Amazon. Well, it's interesting you use those words instead of helping brands, boost profits on Amazon. And then there was a slide deck I think you had that said, it is possible to be profitable selling on Amazon Marketplace. Well, the implication there, it's really difficult. So I thought all those things were interesting. And then you talk about how you help sellers on Amazon Marketplace with their upstream strategy. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so all of these questions are extremely related. Our business exists because it's hard to succeed on Amazon and it's hard to be profitable. We actually really pride ourselves in over 90% of our clients at scale are profitable net of all costs on Amazon
Mhm.
for the channel. And that's not easily done. We talk about upstream work. It's a term that we take from other industries. And what we say is upstream work is picking your retail assortment, designing your kitting supply chain and how you interface freight with Amazon before you enter the Amazon supply chain. And this is actually where we believe in our experience, you you set the possibility for profitability on Amazon. If you don't set that up right, once you get down to like optimizing the pages and advertising and so forth, you actually don't really stand a chance. It's both understanding unit profitability and then also long term competitiveness of the offer, whether or not you'll be able to play against your peers. And so this upstream work actually includes a lot of what we were talking about earlier with what kind of pack should you have. Is that pack at risk of being price smashed? Do we need to make some kind of unique variety pack or multi pack? Do we need to think about line pricing both on and off Amazon? And
Mhm.
for a lot of emerging brands, it's all of these questions are moving targets because you're going into retail stores as the brand evolves. You change your offering. Retailers ask for different terms. Oftentimes, the product prices even change, and so you have to really be careful about setting up your Amazon business that's profitable and sustainable, even before you get to the side of Amazon marketing.
Yeah, so a lot changes pretty quickly. I mean, that was one of the things I gathered from one of your recent newsletters is you mentioned that some of some of these things are just a moving target where Amazon kind of changes the rules kind of on the fly. I mean, what are some of the examples of the things that they've changed that have made things difficult for sellers?
Yeah, so I have two examples. The first one we've talked about a little bit before, which is the price matching. The price
Hmm.
matching rule would be difficult but navigable if it were predictable and consistent, right? If they said if we said if you sell the same thing, it will be price matched to the same thing as Walmart, and you knew that would always be the case, that would work. But actually, instead, you're not sure when it's going to be price matched, and so you're in this kind of prisoner's dilemma of that something could happen, but oftentimes, given your inventory position and kind of like the real constraints of the business, your most optimal move is to play as if that move isn't going to happen in the short term. And so that just
Hmm.
creates a lot of complexity into the business. And these things like, what should something be price matched if it's slightly different than something in the retailer? Or you can even ask the bigger existential questions on like that that shipment doesn't involve shipping. It's really not a fair match. So that's one where Amazon is a little bit tough to work with and inconsistent. The other is Amazon changes their policies and rates on shipping. And the reason I say policies is their logic on how they charge shipping rates. And so this is natural. Every logistics company does this: inflation adjustments, peak time adjustments, and so forth. But sometimes these changes can be a little bit tricky. One example is Amazon has a what they call their small and light program, which is a program for products intended for products under 15 bucks that are pretty small, and they give discounted shipping rates on them. And in the last few months, Amazon is actually sunsetting this program and then changing it to kind of like work into their ordinary fees. Certain businesses, one of our clients in particular, was built around their P&L was built around the viability of this program, that we're exactly the right size and we get exactly the shipping rate, and that makes our whole business work. When that went away,
Hmm.
we had to totally re-rationalize our product strategy and totally think about, okay, could we do a price drop? Do we have to just sell multi-packs now? And yeah, that change, which was not just a like freight rate, but it was actually like a structural pricing thing, did make it a little bit harder to you can imagine brands who are blindsided by this and don't have the resources to make a pivot, or the knowledge to, really creating problems for them.
Yeah, so you really have to know the rules of the game to do that, and then stay on top of them. Which I could see how that's really helpful to be in contact with you, to read your newsletter and all those things, just to be on top of all these things. But I wanted to ask you, you also deal with Instacart and sellers, and you help sellers with Instacart. Yeah, I did see the stock has been weak. Some of the analysts are saying, well, is this business model really defensible? What are your sort of views on selling on Instacart at a high level, and do you think they really have something that's differentiated there?
Yeah, it's a great question, and actually a pretty tricky question to unpack. I think Instacart is fundamentally a very premium product, right?
Hmm.
You're at your core, you're paying somebody else to go into the store, pull something off a shelf, and drive it to your house. And so the amount of people who really should practically afford that labor, it's hard to imagine it becomes a totally mass market thing, because people are just increasing their grocery budget long term. And so for brands as well, advertising on Instacart can be um, a great way to increase your velocity in store. And in fact, it's like one of the only places that you can do that digitally versus like in-store options like couponing or doing promos and stuff like that. It's actually pretty hard to affect in-store turn with any kind of digital way that scales. Now, I think one of the challenges for brands is that they already have pretty tight margins when they have their retail retail distribution agreements where they have to pay trade spend, they have trade spend they have to pay, they have to give the stores their margin and so forth. And so it doesn't leave a lot of room to add in this additional Instacart marketing budget. And so brands
Mhm.
often have to make this call where it really is a marketing investment, not really a profitable sales investment a lot of the time. And so, yeah, it kind of becomes a little bit of an accounting question of like, can I allocate marketing budget to push Instacart turn? Now, the interesting thing that we've heard from Instacart is that they are actively pivoting away from being a grocery company and they're trying to
Mhm.
move to other categories where there's actually more room for this. And it's very interesting. They have the like iconic Instacart logo is this carrot. And if you look at their
Mhm.
logo right now, they've actually taken the carrot away. It's just a triangle. I think it's still like an orange triangle, but they're actually moving to it, and it intuitively actually makes sense. The times in your life that you need something that day and like very urgently, it's not often food. Sometimes like if you have a beauty product or a skincare product or you need some pet food or something, you can't wait for the weekend or the next day. And so
Mhm.
I think they're actually starting to grow in other types of retailers that are not just grocery.
Yeah, that's interesting. So it's yeah, maybe that does sort of stay a niche, but that'll be one we'll continue to watch. It's been some people are saying, well, maybe that was going to open the floodgates to more IPOs, but it seems like maybe that expectation was a little bit premature. So, Chris, we're about out of time here. Want to make sure you have a chance to tell people how they can reach out to you, sign up for your newsletter, get to know more about Cartograph. You have some good white papers on your website. How do people access those?
Sure. Yeah, we actually just published a new white paper on supplements on Amazon, which is a whole different problem of itself. Of how do you navigate compliance and labeling and so forth, in order to sell your supplements on Amazon. But if you want to find us, you can either go to our website, which is gocartograph.com, or visit us on LinkedIn. We actually publish content on LinkedIn regularly. Every week, we publish our latest breaking tips or news about being an active operator on the Amazon platform. And then we have a monthly newsletter that where we talk about trends on Amazon, and then generally we'll publish one white paper per month. So find us on LinkedIn or our website, and yeah, feel free to reach out and connect with me on LinkedIn as well.
Okay. Well, sounds great. Well, thanks very much, Chris, and hope everyone has a good one.